All right, let's get to it. Am I selling Palantir? The answer is obviously no. The title of this is Why I'm Not Selling Palantir. And I wanted to take this moment to get my raw thoughts out there in video format for those who are watching, but also I have an audio startup. So if you want to listen to this content, or if you're listening to this content already on Audio, which is the name of my startup, you can listen to this content. Link is in the description if you want to check out the audio version of this. I'm going to be giving my raw thoughts on what I feel has happened to Palantir over the past basically 2 weeks and my logic and my thought process for why I'm not selling Palantir, why I'm continuing to probably DCA into it over time. I'm not DCAing yet, and my overall thoughts. So first, a couple things. I know I did a podcast with Chris and the Palantir Weekly crew back on Friday, and Chris kind of shocked everybody because he was like a long OG, bull for Palantir, DCAing constantly. He had around 13,000 shares, by the way, so he did have a very sizable position, and he sold out of his entire position, and he is now transitioning into other stocks. Now, the logic Chris gave was a logic that I think it's hard to refute at the end of the day. The logic was very simple. He doesn't feel like management is performing at their highest of levels when it comes to sales and marketing. I can agree with him on that. He feels that Palantir's product is phenomenal, but it is going to be commoditized by companies like Microsoft and Databricks and Snowflake that have distribution and that actually know how to sell a product, which means you could have the best product in the world, but if you can't sell it, then it's not really something that's worth investing in. And three, he just believes that his capital is continuing to get sucked up by a company that could have a better return somewhere else just from an opportunity cost perspective. And he doesn't want to continue to give Alex Karp his money because he believes the government business and the commercial business is sucking up his capital, and they should kind of have it separated so that they have one thing that's actually growing, so his capital is growing with it. He has a bit of a thesis that I think a lot of people can resonate with when it comes to selling Palantir. Now, people have asked me why am I not selling Palantir and ultimately why I continue to hold. I think there's a couple of core arguments that are pretty simple for why I'm not selling Palantir, and then we can get into some more stuff about it. So number one is I just don't think that this price is worth selling at. Given even if I agree with all of the bear case theses for what's going on, I still feel Palantir is like just massively undervalued from where it is right now. The reason for this is because if you look at Snowflake is trading 3 times its trailing 12-month revenue. Palantir's trading 1 times its trading 12-month revenue. So when you look at when you're paying for Snowflake, you're paying 3 times more for their trailing 12-month revenue if you're buying 1 share of Snowflake, whereas for Palantir you're paying 1 times that. That to me screams undervalued, given I also believe in the technology of Palantir being better than what it is for Snowflake. So, and this is similar to a lot of the other cloud-based platforms that exist. You're paying a lot more for their TTM, their trailing 12-month revenue, versus what you would be paying for something like a Palantir. Now, the reason for this is because Palantir has gotten beaten up massively, right? This was a $45 stock that went down to $6 at one point and now is hovering at $9, $10. So even if I thought like, okay, I want to sell, I want to get out of the position, I don't want to do, be a Palantir shareholder anymore, which is not the case for me because there's a lot of other reasons why I'm continuing to hold it. The obvious reason is just from a financial perspective, I don't see my capital being put somewhere else where the opportunity cost, given how beat up it is, makes a lot of sense. And like, that's the first thing to me. Like, what other stock am I going to choose to? Because again, this is a stock picking game. This is not an index picking game. So if I choose to pick another stock, then that stock has to perform better than what Palantir could produce at. And if Palantir, if Palantir gets the federated data platform from the NHS, if Palantir is able to get the Army Titan program, there's a lot of different catalysts that I believe are coming up that could allow Wall Street to look at Palantir a little bit more favorably, even if their earnings weren't that amazing. I think Palantir could potentially just double, right? Go up 100% over the next 12 months, a lot more easier than some other companies. So the question then becomes, where do I see that doubling happen? And if I don't see it happening in a lot of other sectors or a lot of other stocks, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with Palantir. Palantir is going to be the stock that I'm going to choose to pick. So that's the first thing. I think it's just undervalued from like a pure numbers perspective. Second thing is I invested in them for a reason, right? This is not saying I'm an emotional investor. This is rather saying if I have invested because of Karp, I invested because of management, I invested because I believe in their product, then ultimately you have to give them time to let that investment happen. I'm not one of those people that's going to be like, oh, I don't see a return, I'm taking out my money and I'm going to go put it somewhere else. And if you are doing that, that's fine. To me, my peace of mind is like, okay, I'm not a day trader, right? Like I do something. I have a startup on the side. I'm kind of all in on that startup. So for me to manage like taking out my money and putting it somewhere else and seeing it grow, then taking out the money, putting it back in Palantir, like that's just not reasonable to me. That's kind of why I fit the definition of a long-term investor. It's almost like if you buy Google stock right now at like 120 or whatever, and you just hold it till 2030, it's probably gonna go up, right? So it's the same thing for me for Palantir. I'm like, okay, I think it's probably gonna go up, and I don't believe they've hit their inflection curve yet. Which I'll get into a little bit later. But the point I'm trying to make here is I believed in them for a reason. And part of that was technology, part of that was management. If I believe in those two things, and none of those two things have changed, earnings has not been amazing. Yes, the quarter was not phenomenal, even though they put up $473 million in a recession. Like, my thesis has not been broken. My thesis has not been able to change. It would take multiple quarters of a lot of bad things happening from a sales and marketing, go-to-market strategy, whatever it may be, for me to really feel, man, this is just something that's not worth it. And I just don't feel that's the case yet. Maybe that will happen in the future. I don't know. But right now, that's not the case. And that's why it's not interesting for me to consider even thinking of selling. So that's the first thing. I believed in them for a reason. I trust them for a reason, so I continue to invest. Now, the other thing is their inflection growth curve. I don't think their inflection growth point has happened yet. I know right now they're guiding for like 23% year over year on growth. I think that's going to be an anomaly. I think overall, Karp has said by 2025 they're going to CAGR at 30% to 4.5 billion. Whether or not it's 2.5 this year or 3 next year or whatever it is, the CAGR is year over year growth 30%. 4.5 billion. That's when he said, I'm driving the company to that form of revenue. So by 2025, if they're doing 4.5 billion in revenue, I have to assume they have figured out how to grow 30% year over year. Last year, they grew 41% year over year. So this year, we have to see what they're able to grow. 41%, 30%, these are startup numbers. These are not, the big tech companies grow at 10, 15, 20% year over year. For them to be able to put up startup numbers, which is what they are intending to do, then I am, taking that risk with my capital that they are going to be able to perform and be able to do that. The reason I think they're going to be able to do that is because I've analyzed their technology more than, most people on the planet. And as a result of analyzing their technology, their partnerships, their approaches, their sort of platform-like approaches to be able to build things and operating systems within different niches and different industries and have those become exponential things that can scale on their own, I feel very confident in their ability to build and their ability to grow. We are going to see if that happens. I could be wrong on this. They could absolutely crap the bed when it comes to this. I just don't think when you have such a far superior product that happens. Sales is something you can figure out. Marketing is something you can figure out. Building the technology product is not something you can figure out. And, I believed in a lot of what Karp was saying on the earnings call, which is that a lot of the companies that exist today have very thin products, and those thin products are going to be worthless in 10 years, which is why they're spending excess amounts of sales and marketing dollars to be able to get those products out there. Now, does that mean you have some growth as a company? Sure. You also have to remember how much you're paying for that growth, given how much they're paying for sales and marketing to be able to get you that growth. I want to bet on the actual fundamental asset of a company, which is the technology. And there is zero doubt in my mind that Karp believes they fundamentally have one of the most differentiated technologies in the world, and that will be able to make the company, in his words, 20 times bigger than what it is today. And that was when Palantir was at $20. And that's a company that's exciting for me to invest in. And so that also forms my thesis. Like, I don't think they've hit their inflection growth curve yet, which means if they haven't hit that yet, then there is no reason for me to want to sell, especially if I'm not looking to actively manage another position and I just want to have more peace of mind. Like, I can handle being down money. I can't handle constantly switching out of positions while I'm trying to do my day job, which is like run a startup. Because like from a peace of mind perspective, that's not going to be relevant to me. That's just not going to help me be able to get through the day. And so that's another reason why I don't want to sell Palantir. The final reason that I want to say here is I've chosen Palantir because of a personal reason as well, and that is sort of my timeline for risk tolerance and my age. Right now I'm 24 years old. I'll be 25 in a couple months, and given my age, and it doesn't matter if you're 25, 35, I just feel I can wait a bit more. Chris, for example, he has a wife, he's trying to get a house. He has a lot of different things going on where his capital is a lot more important than to be locked up in theoretical dead money for the next 2 years. Now, was this going to be dead money? I don't know. I think given how beaten up it is, it's likely not going to be dead money. But even if it is, worst case scenario, I would be 26 years old and then Palantir would start to rocket, and I have, 2 years of an opportunity cost while I'm, building something on the side, and hopefully that's successful. Like, there's just not enough reason for me to feel so obliged to get out of the position at this age with the lack of responsibilities I have. I don't have a wife and kids and all that stuff, versus just let my capital ride out and try to DCA and try to build an even more substantial position and try to obviously mitigate some of the risk by diversifying my overall portfolio, which I'm probably going to start to do a lot more. But also, it's like, this is the stock that I picked. This is the one that I want to be in. It's not that I think Palantir is Tesla. I just do feel like people who are selling right now probably would have sold Tesla in some of their worst quarters. Now, Palantir is fundamentally different because it's B2B enterprise. It's not Elon Musk. I get it. But the sort of essence of not selling and continuing to let it ride and getting a little bit more data, at least for another 2-3 quarters before you just decide to just bury it, that's what matters to me. Especially if you decide to bury it right now, you better have a better position to go in this economy where we might be having a bear market rally. We're not having a bear market rally. Who knows? You've got to be able to objectively kind of make that decision. And while you're making that decision, then it informs whether it's a good thing to sell or not sell. I don't know any other stock that's better to invest in right now. I don't know any other stock that has better technology right now. I don't know any other stock that is going to potentially succeed with the bear market rally or come right back down after we have a real recession, or if we're even going to have a quote unquote real recession. There is so much uncertainty that the one thing that I know I'm certain about is my belief and my faith and my trust in the technology of Palantir and in the leadership of Palantir to get us to the next level. And they're going to put up $2 billion in revenue this year, which is, pretty insane. Last year they put up $1.5 billion. Like, to me, I think that's a good thing. To me, I think that's a strong sense of their ability to grow. And ultimately, over time, we're going to see how it plays out. And hopefully I'm not wrong on this. Of course, I could be wrong on this. All of us could be wrong on this. But that's the whole point of investing. You take a risk and you see what happens. And for me, just given my age and where I'm at right now, I don't want to take that risk with a different company or a much more... Like, I'm not investing in Palantir for them to be another snowflake. I'm not investing in them for them to just be another stock. I'm investing in them and taking a more substantial risk because I see the bigger picture. And I'm going to give them some time to execute on that bigger picture. And if we see that happen, then I'm going to stay. And if we don't, then we'll leave. But I want to give it a lot of time before I just make that decision, so quickly or so bluntly like that. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about it. Let me know if you're investing in Palantir, if you're continuing to invest in Palantir. I know a lot of people have sold because of Chris. That's totally fine. Everyone has to make their own decisions. Chris will still be on the podcast because I love Chris. He's my brother. And he's one of my best friends, and everyone has to have different opinions. Everyone has to do different things, and I think it makes for a more interesting discussion when we have more contrarian views. If you want to get daily Palantir audio content, please check out the link in the description. I launched a new startup. You can sign up for that and get your daily Palantir audio on the app on Android or Apple. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, watching. Let me know your thoughts on why you continue to stay invested in Palantir.